24-year-old hostess, Veronica Redden, is suing her mother-in-law, Donna Redden, for rent and damages due to mental distress. Veronica says Donna came to live with her while her husband was deployed in Iraq.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Yes, case number 16 on the calendar in the matter of Redden versus Redden. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Ms. Redden, the defendant is your mother-in-law. Are you still married to her son?
Yes.
He's in the armed forces?
Navy.
How long has he been away?
He's been gone since December 6th.
According to your complaint, your mother-in-law owes you for rent and for other conduct that caused you loss of wages, harassment, whatever. Your mother-in-law says she lived with you for a brief period of time. She didn't stay there the entire month. She shouldn't have to pay rent. And she doesn't think that anything that she did rises to the level of harassment. Is that right, Mrs. Redden?
That's true, Your Honor.
All right. Your mother-in-law came to live with you when?
December 4th.
Why?
Because my husband was leaving for deployment and I don't drive. I also have 3 small children who I was going to need help with.
How old are they?
They're 3, 4, and soon to be 2.
Are these your only grandchildren?
Yes, they are, Your Honor.
So you asked your mother-in-law to come to do you a favor?
Pretty much.
Where was she coming from?
Oregon.
Is this your only child?
Yes, it is.
How long have you lived in Oregon, by the way?
40 years off and on.
So you were really relocating?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what do you think she owes you for?
There was an agreement between her and my husband that was made over the phone that there was conversation back and forth that I was thinking about when she moved out to get a job for a second income. And when he'd mentioned that to her, she said, no, I don't need to get a job, that she'd pay $700 when she moved every month for her to move in.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm disabled. I have a VA pension that I get monthly.
Go ahead.
So she agreed that it was going to be $700 a month.
I heard that.
That way I wasn't going to have to get a job because for some reason she didn't approve of the fact that I wanted to get a job.
Right. That sounds perfect to me. I would rather you stay home and watch 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. Let you watch them. You made them. You watch them. Why should she watch them? She's already raised hers. Right? You have a lot of little children. A lot of little children could drive you crazy if you're with them 24/7. So it's nice to go out and get a job. You know, you're with adults all day and you leave somebody else to take care of your kids. Okay. So you agreed to give her $700 a month so she wouldn't go out to get a job and take care of her own children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that sounds very nice.
Supposed to.
Shh. That sounds very nice of you so far. Relocating from a place you lived for 40 years to come and help your daughter-in-law because your son was going off to serve his country and you were coming to assist her.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
She moved in December 4th. First few months, things were fine. Then in February, she had mentioned that SeaWorld out in San Diego was doing a job fair and that they were hiring. She brought it up to me stating, oh, I think you should try to do it. You know, it's a job, you know, I'll stay home, I'll watch the kids while you get this job. I went, I applied, got the job, and then we left for a weekend in Fresno because...
Who left?
All of us, my 3 kids, myself, and her, drove up to Fresno because my youngest sister was having a baby shower. Well, while we were in Fresno, things were perfectly fine. We come back from Fresno, I get the job, and then she starts, as soon as I start working, she starts getting attitude with me because I'm working and I'm not home all the time.
Just a second. You had disagreements with her over being out of the house during the day when you were supposed to be working?
The days that I was working, she started having problems with the fact that I was working long hours.
Oh, well, were you working long hours?
I was working between 5 and 8 hours a day.
Okay, and what was the original plan? How many hours were you supposed to work?
She didn't give me well, I'd only appreciate it if you worked this many hours a day. It was just,
But we're not talking about you going out socializing after work.
No, I'd go to work. She would drop me off at work. She would come pick me up from work, and we'd go home.
How far is the workplace from your home?
It's about a 10, 15-minute drive from my house.
Okay, and when she would come to pick you up, she'd come with the 3 children?
Yes.
So far, she sounds like a saint to me.
It may sound like she was a saint, but there wasn't. There were disagreements throughout the house.
I don't care whether there were disagreements or not. So far, she sounds like a saint to me. Go ahead, keep going.
So I started working. Deborah, who's my witness, was also working with me. She started the same exact day I started, and we were working pretty much the same hours. So I'd asked Donna if it was okay if we'd give Deborah a ride home, because Deborah lived about half an hour away from work, and she was taking the city bus to and from work, which is about a 2-hour ride. She didn't have a problem with that either. Well, then it started in conversation that Deborah was going to move in with me because she was having issues at home. She just wasn't getting along with her mother very well. Her father was also out on deployment in the Army. Well, Donna apparently took it into her head that the reason I was having Deborah move in was a ploy to get her to leave my house, which wasn't true because Deborah was actually moving in to help.
Deborah has children?
No.
So why wasn't she working more hours and you working less hours?
Because she's under 18, she's 17, and because of California laws, she can only work so many hours.
She's 17 years old, and she wasn't getting along in her house?
Correct.
Why wasn't she getting along in her house, do you think?
I don't know. That's between her and her parents.
Right. That didn't give you any cause to pause if a 17-year-old has to move out of her house because she's not getting along with her parents?
No, because I had issues with my parents.
So keep going. I'm still waiting for this lawsuit. I don't get a lawsuit. I get a saga, but not a lawsuit.
The evening of Easter Sunday, Deborah comes home, she sits me down, she's
Had
like...
she moved into the house yet?
She had.
And?
Deborah came home Sunday evening and told me that afternoon when Donna had picked Deborah up from work at about 4 o'clock, that both of my children, the boys, had both unbuckled their seatbelts in the car. And she was driving a little faster than she normally would and slammed on the brakes. Slammed on the brakes so hard that it sent my 4-year-old son flying into the middle console of my van and hurt his stomach. Well, we got into the car the next morning because she was taking me to work, and she'd made some snide remark towards my son about buckling in. And I'd asked her, I was like, what is this that I hear about the boys not being buckled in and that you'd hurt Connor's stomach? She's like, yeah, I did.
When you came home, did Connor complain of a bad stomach?
No.
Keep going.
So she's like, yeah, I did it. She was like, I did it because I was teaching them a lesson that they didn't need to have their belts unbuckled. So she tells me that she'd stopped prior to this before and that she tried buckling them in and they wouldn't stay buckled up.
Okay, so she made excuses. Keep going.
Right.
I'm waiting for the lawsuit, Miss Redden.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You had to watch your own children that you made because she was in bed.
So that gives her the right to threaten my life with a gun?
I don't hear threatening.
Donna Redden owes for rent and for emotional distress. Veronica claims Donna threatened her life with a gun.
It's all very interesting, but you have to tell me what you're here for.
Well, the whole car incident was what led me to suing her because I'd come home early on the 29th from work. And in a binder that I have that has the bills that we have monthly, she had scribbled out what she was supposed to be paying me for the month and left some remark about how she wasn't an idiot and she wasn't going to pay me.
You mean she wasn't going to pay you the $700 a month?
Right, because she didn't feel that she needed to because she was taking care of the kids more and everything. But prior to that...
Just a second. Miss Redden, so this is what your lawsuit is about. Now we're getting there very swiftly. Your lawsuit is about she didn't pay you for the last month or so.
No, it was actually what I'm suing for is the first month she lived with us in December.
How many months did you work that she lived there?
I only worked a month.
Fine. And for that 1 month, had she paid you the $700?
No, because we'd made a prior agreement.
How many $700 payments did she make towards the house?
January and February.
And she left in March?
She left on the 30th of March, so the very end of March.
Shh. When did you get the job at SeaWorld?
The 26th of February is when I started orientation.
So you were working the month of March?
Yes.
Listen to me. If what you're telling me is that you came home and you saw her scratched out that she was going to give you $700 a month because she said that wasn't your arrangement. She wasn't going to watch your kids while you went to work.
No, that was the arrangement when I got the job. She agreed to watching the children.
Right,
and the
just a second.
Changed.
Just a second. She agreed to watch your children, Miss Redden, and not pay you rent.
It had nothing to do with the rent. She agreed.
Listen,
no, because when I got the job.
Listen to me, my dear. Let's go back to the original conversation. Mrs. Redden, do I look like I need help from you?
No, ma'am.
I mean, she's got a lot of growing up to do.
I agree.
She's going to start today.
Thank you.
Your husband had, according to you, an agreement with his mother. His mother said, I don't want her to go out and get a job for a second income. I'll come, and so she doesn't get a job and stays home and watches her children. I'll put in $700 towards running of the household. Then she comes, relocates hundreds and hundreds of miles from a home that she's had for 40 years in order to assist you. Let me tell you what you just told me. She takes care of your children because you decide that you want a job. You want to go to SeaWorld. You want to be amongst people. You don't want to deal with 2-, 3-, and 4-year-old babies 24/7. That's the hardest job in the world, taking care of 3 little children. It's much easier to be amongst adults where you can meet other reputable people, like a 17-year-old who can't get along with a family. Right? So you go to SeaWorld, and because you don't drive, she puts your 3 children in the car, drives you to work. Then you meet Miss Yuckum over here. And you say, I don't want my friend to have to travel 2 hours by bus. Your mother-in-law says, fine, I'll pick her up or I'll drive her home so she doesn't have to take the bus 2 hours each way. Then, genius that you are, you say, I think I'm going to have her move in with me. I assume that you just met her at SeaWorld, so you know squat about her background. You don't know whether she's got a drug problem, an alcohol problem, a boyfriend problem, whether she steals, whether she's got a criminal history. You know nothing about her. You bring her into your house, and within a relatively short period of time, Miss Troublemaker causes a problem between you and your mother-in-law, and you've had months. You know, she drove you to your sister's house or to a baby shower. She does whatever you ask her to do. And she is rewarded for that by you suing her. Not only for rent, but for harassment, losing your job. Just a minute. Losing your job, damages due to mental distress. What mental distress did you have?
She threatened my life.
Tell me about that.
The night of the 29th, I'd come home from work with Deborah.
With Deborah?
Yes, because...
With Deborah. Go ahead.
We'd gotten into an argument about the scribbling that she put in my little binder thing. So I'd asked her about it. And she said that if I didn't agree with the $200 she was willing to pay, then she wasn't going to pay me anything. So I told her she either had to email my husband or she had to pack up and get out.
That was nice of you.
It's because we were having issues way prior to this.
What kind of issues were you having way prior to this?
She would make up excuses on her being sick and spend days in her bedroom. She'd go off.
You mean you'd have to watch your own children? Give her a tissue. You mean you'd have to watch your own children?
It had nothing to do with watching my own children.
Well, what if she decided to stay in bed? What does that have to do with you? What does that have to do with you if she decided...
Her agreement for moving in was so that she could help with the children.
So you had to watch your own children that you made because she was in bed.
So that gives her the right to threaten my life with a gun?
I don't hear you. I don't hear threatening.
She had walked up the stairs because she supposedly was going upstairs to pack. Her exact words as she was walking up the stairs was, do not come upstairs. I have a loaded .38 and I will use it.
So that gave you emotional distress?
That scared the crap out of me.
Just a second. That gave you emotional distress?
CPS was called because of this, and CPS threatened to take my children away.
Because of why?
Because I didn't drive.
You have anything you want to say to me?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, she was standing at the bottom of the stairs holding her youngest baby, 21-month-old daughter, in her arms with Deborah standing next to her, trying to pick a fist fight with me. And I said, Ronnie, you don't want to mess with me. First of all, I was so mad, she would have left the house in an ambulance. I didn't want to do that because they'd have had me thrown in jail for assault. There would have been a restraining order against me. I didn't want that. I just wanted to pack my stuff and leave as soon as I could. And I said, and so I just said, turn around and started walking up the stairs. And I said, and don't come upstairs because I got a loaded .38. And that's all I said.
Okay.
And the gun was not loaded? The bullets were locked away?
That's between you and the police department, whether you have a loaded
ma'am.
.38 in your license. I don't want to know about it.
Okay.
That doesn't cause her emotional distress. What caused her emotional distress is that she was going to have to take care of her own children.
I agree. I agree.
Now,
Yes.
you want to tell me, is there anything you want to tell me about Child Protective Services?
I think the reason Child Protective Services came is because after things had quieted down, I walked across the street to 7-Eleven, and one of the police officers that had been at the house was over there. Well, I stressed to him the fact that I love those children dearly, and I hated to leave them in the predicament that they were going to be coming into, and that I was really afraid that they were not going to be taken care of the way children should be taken care of. And the
Okay, and
next
as a
morning
result of
is
that,
when-
they called Child Protective Services.
And the next morning, Child Protective Services was at the door.
Where are you now?
Oh, I'm back in Oregon now.
Okay, have you been in touch with your son?
No, ma'am. I cannot email him.
Her son wants nothing to do with her.
Why did you leave your house at age 17?
I live in a house with 8 other women.
What do you mean 8 other women? You have a mother?
With my mom and my sisters and my grandmother and my sister's friend.
Yes.
It's just, I wanted to leave.
What do you do now?
I'm going to school.
Who supports you?
I support myself. I work at also.
Do you pay her rent?
Yes.
How much do you pay her?
I pay her $100.
Who watches the children?
We work opposite shifts. So I watch during her shifts and she takes care of them.
So
during
you
mine.
watch her 3 babies?
Yes.
Very good. Sit down. Yes.
I might also add that, as far as I know, Deborah's boyfriend is now living with them in the home.
That
too.
sounds more right than anything else.
Yes.
That sounds like a reason one might not want to live with one's mother and grandmother.
Yes.
Deborah's boyfriend does not live with us. It's just the two of us at home.
How old is the boyfriend?
I have no idea. I've never met him, but when I left, supposedly he was on his way from Portland, Oregon, to come down and move in with them.
What's his name?
His name's Cody. But
Cody. How old is he?
19.
Does he go to school?
Yes.
Where?
He does internet classes right now. He's taking a course.
Please. Listen to me, Mrs. Redden. You have to keep your fingers crossed. There is nothing else you can do.
I pray.
That's what happens when babies make babies.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. And when babies make not 1 baby, but 3 babies, that's a big problem.
Yes.
You keep your fingers crossed. You hope that God is watching over them. Your case is dismissed. Grow up.
Ma'am?
Myers are accused. You may step out.
Here, Connie.
Your Honor, this is case number 43 on the calendar in the matter of McManus versus Leal. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
All right, Mr. McManus, it is your claim that the defendant, Mr. Leal, owes you, really you and your wife, for 2 loans that you made to him during the course of his relationship with your daughter.
Correct.
One was for $1,500 towards the purchase of a car for him.
Yes.
The second was $125 that he needed because he was short of rent, and he called you and asked you for the money. Mr. Leal says that you generously agreed to help him buy this car, and it was a gift. The $1,500 was a gift, and as was the $125 that you gave him towards the rent. Mr. Leal is counterclaiming because he says when he attempted to break off the relationship with your lovely daughter, she threw a hissy fit and broke a whole bunch of his property. Yes. Correct, sir? I'm going to start with you. When were you and Elizabeth dating?
January, I believe.
Of what year?
Was it 2003?
Elizabeth, when?
It was in March of 2003.
March.
And there was a time that you lived together. Would you tell me when that was?
After dating there, we actually both moved to Michigan, where I went to school at, and Mr. McManus wasn't too happy there.
Oh, this is a whole saga here. When did you live together, Mr. Leal?
But I moved down, and that was in January, I believe.
2004?
Yes.
Now, you didn't have a car.
No.
You were sharing a car with Elizabeth?
Yes.
You wanted your own car, and you approached your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to give you how much money?
They gave me about $3,900.
Go ahead.
I found a car that was well decently priced for $4,900.
You saw a car for $4,900. All you had was $3,900. So what did you do, Gilbert?
I didn't really think twice about it. At the time, I didn't really find anything that was working with $3,900.
Life is very short.
Right.
And I have a lot of work to do.
Right.
So, you have $3,900. The car you want is $4,900. What did you do?
Well, we were living together, like you already know. At the time, me and Elizabeth kind of briefly discussed it a little bit, but it still wasn't anything, too serious. So her dad approached me with helping me.
Gilbert, at some point you had to call Mr. McManus and say, I have $3,900. The car I want is $4,900. Can you help me out?
Right.
So, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's not what I do. How did the McManuses find out that the car you sought exceeded your bank account?
Through Elizabeth.
Did you discuss with your parents the fact that his eyes were bigger than his stomach?
Yes, Your Honor, and there was a...
Just a second.
Okay.
So he told you, and you went to your parents.
Uh-huh. He also spoke to my parents.
Just a second. Who went there first, Elizabeth?
Me, okay.
And what did you say to mother and or father?
I told them that Gil had backed my car into someone else's car in a Taco Bell parking lot and took off paint that he said he was going to pay for, and that the whole car situation wasn't working out, and he needs a car so he can get to work and I can do my thing. Can you...
That's what you told your parents?
Yes.
Can you what?
Can you help him out by giving him a loan?
Who did you discuss it with, your father or your mother?
My mom.
What did your mother say?
We had offered to loan Gil the money well before he found the car. And then they moved down here. And he found the car, and then Elizabeth called and said, he could really use that help of that loan that you had offered him. Because the car that he wants is $5,000, and his parents was able to give him $3,500. And so we gave Gil a loan for $1,500.
That was in February of 2004?
Yes.
Now, when did you break up?
March 14th, 2004.
So, a couple of weeks later, right? But there was a second loan. What was the second loan about?
Well, before they moved down, I had told him that if he needed help making the rent, food, whatever, to cover his share, if he were to advise me if he was in any problem, that I would be willing to help. He called me directly on the phone, said he was short of the rent. I knew that she didn't want to hear about that problem because she was struggling to make up her end of it.
So he gave him $125.
On the condition he'd pay me back when his first time he got paid, which would have been within 10 days, as I remember it. I've never heard from him since.
Now, a couple of weeks later, you decided you wanted out of this relationship. Tell me why.
We had been arguing pretty much when we moved in. It was just tough on us. I wasn't working full time, and she then started talking with her ex-boyfriend and different things like that, and disregarded our relationship altogether. I said it wasn't going to work out, so
now let's
I
get to your
decided to
counterclaim, Gilbert.
Well, counterclaim was that day that I moved out that night. She decided to help me move by breaking my stuff and throwing it at me. On top of that, I had two items that were very close to me and very personal to me that she threw and lost.
Allow me to intervene if I may. If I could be so bold, Judge.
You can't. You have to.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You double lock the door from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty. Take your hands off your hip.
Sorry. Yes, I agree. That was nasty. And he said, I'm leaving. And I snapped.
And later today.
You have a drug problem?
No, ma'am.
So then why weren't you working?
We were working.
Well, two people working, it would seem to me you could have some sort of place for your children.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth McManus and her parents, Rich and Manon McManus, claim Elizabeth's ex-boyfriend, Gilbert Layell, owes for a loan to buy a car and unpaid rent.
Go ahead.
We did have a big fight. And what he's referring to is that he left the apartment for 2 hours, didn't tell me where he was going, nothing. And I ended up locking the doors on him, and I went to bed. And so whenever he came back, he's pounding on the door, And I wasn't going to let him in
You
because...
mean you double locked the door from the inside? Mm-hmm. Nasty.
I was trying to do that.
Yeah, take your hands off your hip.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. That was nasty. I was trying to show him that don't just leave me for hours and don't tell me where you go. So what I'm trying to get at is that he came in the house and it ended up that he said, I'm sick of this, I'm leaving. And I snapped. Your Honor, I was very upset because we have this agreement to be living together and he's trying to bail on me. So I said, I will help you move out. And I took his things and I went like that. And the rock, he was referring to an angel that were important to him. The last I ever saw those items were on the bed.
What did you break, Elizabeth?
I don't believe I broke anything.
You were throwing his stuff.
I shoved it off the table. I didn't, throw it as like launching it at him.
You didn't pick up my glasses and throw them at me, crush them and throw them at me?
I tossed things across the room.
Elizabeth, now your brother is dying to say something. Was he there that evening?
He was not there that fight.
Mr. McManus, you want to say anything?
Yeah, briefly.
Well, then stand up.
Stand up by me, honey.
When Gil was moving out the final time, he was fully packed. And at no point did I witness any destructive act.
Well, your sister already has told me that she threw his stuff around, right? So you're not going to say she didn't,
dispute that.
because she couldn't. Good.
But I don't believe that it was a result in any destructiveness, meaning his items at no point, to my observations, were broken as a result of any arguable tantrums.
Good.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Yes.
When Elizabeth and Gil came home, and Elizabeth found out about the $125, what came out was, Mom, he wasn't short $125. He's still short $200 for the rent. I have a hole in my wall. I have a hole in my door because he's gotten upset and he's creating damage. And I said to Elizabeth at that time, he can't stay. I don't mind supporting you. You're my daughter. I'm not going to support your boyfriend.
Got it. I got it. One of the problems is your husband, behind his daughter's back, had a conversation with Gilbert. He was well-meaning, but he said to Gilbert, look, so you're going to be short. If you're short, you let me know because I'll help you out. I can understand why Elizabeth was annoyed because he's supposed to be taking care of business and he wasn't taking care of business. Right, Elizabeth?
Yes. And
all right. But I'm going to tell you something that you said to me was really kind of stupid. And that is, if he decided to move out because you weren't getting along, why you lost your temper, I don't know. I would have thrown him a party. Not thrown his things, I would have thrown him a party. And you really had no right to lock him out of the apartment because irrespective of where he got the money, he was paying rent. Now, Gilbert, your parents love you?
Yes.
Is that why they were helping you with your money?
Yes.
Mr. McManus doesn't love you. And the reason he was helping you was because of his daughter, not because of you. He doesn't care whether he doesn't see you starting today until hell freezes over. Now, are you a moral person, Gilbert?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. You see, now, if I was superstitious, I would say, when you sneeze after you say something, it's because you're telling the truth. So Mr. McManus really doesn't care whether he sees you from today until hell freezes over.
Elizabeth McManus and her parents, Rich and Manon McManus, claim Elizabeth's ex-boyfriend, Gilbert Layell, owes for a loan to buy a car and unpaid rent.
Are you working now, Gilbert?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get to work last week?
Another car that I own.
When did you sell the Camaro, Gilbert?
No, I didn't sell the Camaro yet. But
Where
I'm
is
going
it?
to. It's in my possession.
What kind of car did you buy, Gilbert?
Just another commute car, like a little Civic.
Why would you do that, Gilbert?
I planned on selling the Camaro, so I needed something that was a little less. The Camaro was giving me a lot of problems as far as...
Well, I hope that you sell it for at least $1,500, Gilbert.
I hope.
Because you owe the McManuses $1,500. I'm surprised at you, sir. I'm really surprised that you committed yourself to another car that you purchased and paid for while still having the old one and didn't have the good judgment and the moral compass to say, These people were nice to me, and I'm going to see to it that they get their money back. The $125 for rent, sir, that's your problem. Put your hand down. That's your problem. You offered, he accepted, you gave him $125. Don't do it again. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500, which is the amount of money that you loaned him for the car. Now, as far as your personal property is concerned, Gilbert, you have photographs of the personal property that she destroyed?
No, I don't.
You have bills and receipts for the personal property she destroyed?
No, ma'am.
Well, I can't help you, sir. Thank you. That's all. Counterclaims dismissed.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I felt that I shouldn't have to pay $2 grand for a rock and a stone, especially to a pathological liar like he is.
The only thing I really cared about was my family things that were handed down to me.
What upset me was that he lied to them.
Well, after everything was broken, I didn't really care.
He took advantage of me too. I could go on, but that'd take all day.
She just was upset that I do that.
I think she's come away a little wiser for it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Plaster versus Deal. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Shirley Bonnie Plaster is suing her former friend, 25-year-old homemaker Tamara Deal, for unpaid child care fees. Tamara says Bonnie agreed to take her children so they wouldn't have to live in a gang-infested neighborhood.
Ms. Plaster, it is your claim that the defendant, who has 3 children, owes you for child care. Her children lived with you for a period of time. She gave you some money, but you still claim she owes you $1,500.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Deal says she owes you nothing because of one of 2 things. Either you waived any support during the mediation that you evidently had about something, and second, that there was never any agreement to pay you for taking care of her children. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why was she taking care of your children?
I had some problems in the neighborhood that I was living in, and it was basically a bad community, and I had to do what was best and get my children out of there as soon as possible.
And how long did they all stay with you?
From June the 11th, Bradley stayed with me until March the 4th, and then the others from August and October until March the 4th.
Where were you living during all of this time?
I recently...
Richard, don't look down. Look at me.
I recently moved out of the apartment that I was moving in because of the community, and I went to stay in hotels. That's why I thought it was best that Bonnie helped me out and take care of my kids.
Who were you living in the hotels with?
Me and the father of my children.
You have a drug problem?
No, ma'am.
Did he?
No, ma'am.
So then why weren't you working?
We were working.
Well, 2 people working, it would seem to me you could have some sort of place for your children.
Right. At the time, struggling, trying to keep up the bill of the hotel and the gas to go back and forth to work and the money to eat on, it took us a long time to try to save the money up so that we could get on our feet.
You knew Miss Plaster through your mother, is that right?
Not only through my mother, but she took custody of my cousin when he was about 9 months old.
How old is he now?
16.
So she's a very good parent.
Yes.
What arrangements did you make to pay her for taking care of your children?
I gave her $150 a week, every week.
Is that right?
She was paying me $150, then she fell behind in November and stopped paying me.
How come?
Back in November, I lost my brother. I had to take some leave of absence from work, and when I went to go back to work in December, they asked me not to come back because I'd been off work for so long, so I wasn't getting a check every week. And then 2 weeks after that, my grandmother passed away as well.
Now, what about the father of these children?
He was with me.
Why wasn't he giving her any money?
He wasn't bringing home much. $200-300 a week is basically getting us by. I mean, it's $350 for a week of hotel.
If it's $350 a week for hotel, madam, you can find a small apartment for less than that.
Well, not where we live.
Where do you live?
In Virginia.
Sure you
It's
can.
$1,200 a month for an apartment.
Yeah.
And when you're bringing home $300 a week, that's not making it much. It's
Well,
not
you
gonna
just
make a
told me it
rent
was
payment.
$350 a week for a hotel room.
Yeah, and we were struggling. And that's why I told Mrs. Plaster that when I got my taxes that I would give her some money because I didn't pay her in November when I lost my job.
So how much money did you give her?
$1,000.
And how much money do you owe her?
Nothing. After I gave her the $1,000, nothing was said until I was served with a court paper.
Ms. Plaster, I'll hear you.
She paid me $1,000 February the 12th. And I watched the kids from February the 12th to March the 4th when they took them out of there. She owed me $2,000 on February the 12th. She gave me $1,000.
So she owes you $1,600.
Right. But I rounded off to make it just even $1,500.
She said in November, I assume when you stopped working, you got behind.
Correct.
And you were behind $2,000. You gave her $1,000 at that time in February.
That's not right. I mean, a month, that's $600. Okay, that's what I, you know, if I owe her anything, that's what I should have been owing her. But I gave her the $1,000 in February because I didn't give her any money for December.
When you gave her the $1,000 in February, did you take your children home?
No, I took them home
Just a
in
second.
March.
So they stayed with her for another month, another 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Are they with you now?
Yes, they are.
Who else do you live with?
The father of my kids.
You have 3 children with this man. Is there any reason why you're not married to him?
The time isn't right. I mean...
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. Let's step out. Now, this is case number 1 on the calendar in the matter of Abel versus Lemke. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Abel, you and Mr. Lemke were dating each other, and according to your complaint, you moved into a home that he purchased, and you paid him during the course of the 6 months that you lived there approximately $9,000. You claim that that was money that you want back now that the relationship is over because that money was really used to defray the cost of his mortgage.
Yes.
In addition, you claim that he has some personal property that belongs to you and a cat. Mr. Lemke says that the money that you paid to him was rent, that the cat belonged to him, that he had the cat prior to your moving in, and he has none of your personal property. What was the financial arrangement when you moved in, Miss Abel?
On May 7th in 2004, we discussed how I could help with expenses. Mr. Lemke brought up the fact that about $1,400 would be fair, and I offered another $100 just to call it an even $1,500 because 2 women, my daughter and myself, were moving in, and there's a lot of blow dryer and hot water used in that case.
Okay, so you agreed to pay him $1,500 a month?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and?
And then about May 24th, after I had moved in, we had become engaged, we had a discussion concerning my problem with the fact that I'm giving a lot of money to something that I won't get any return on. And why would I want to give $1,500 toward a mortgage that my name was not on? And Mr. Lemke said, well, I've been thinking about that, and here's what I've worked out. And I have the notes that he jotted down that day to explain to me how this money was actually an investment into his property.
Well, first tell me what he said to you.
He said that because his home appreciates $54,000 a year, over the past 10 years it had done that because it's lake property, that if you divide that number by 12 months and then again by 2 people, it comes out to about $2,200 a month in equity and investment money.
Yes.
And that is what he...
If your name was on the mortgage, and if the house was titled in both of your names.
That part was left out. The fact that he
Well,
said...
I understand
Yes.
that, but well, I understand it's left out of your story.
Right, exactly. But he also mentioned on the same piece of paper in an email to the attorney that I'm willing to invest in his home and that upon sale of the home, I would receive the investment money back plus free equity. And that is also in the handwritten note that he gave me.
Let me see it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this note discusses a prenuptial agreement that the 2 of you were contemplating.
Correct.
And what he says is, Gail wants to enhance the aesthetic ambiance of my cabin and is willing to invest in it. Mm-hmm. Any proceeds over $775,000 would be shared in the event of a sale. Are you okay doing a prenup for both of us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you sold the cabin?
No.
Well, your agreement was that when and if the house was sold, you would share in the profits and get your money back. The house hasn't been sold.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, you can't change the agreement because you're no longer together. You could have just as easily worked out an agreement where you said, well, that's fine. If the house is sold, I get my money back, and if we don't get married, I get some of my money back. But you didn't do that. So you didn't get your money back. The house hasn't been sold. That's your agreement.
But it was a term of our engagement and marriage as I understood it, that that money was investment.
You don't make an investment just because you understood it to be an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So you never came to an agreement with regard to that, according to this. Now, you're not suggesting that Mr. Lemke agreed to support you and your daughter.
Oh, not at all.
Good.
Not at all.
So that your $1,500 a month that you paid went for the roof over your head and your daughter's head, the electric that you say you used because you're two women that use more electricity for the heating or air conditioning or whatever else. $1,500 a month is reasonable. Get over it. Now let's get to the cat. Did you have the cat before?
Gail got the cat on her 40th birthday as a gift to herself. And shortly after I met her, gave me the cat.
When?
She said, we met February 3rd, and she gave me the cat February 20th.
Were you living together at the time?
No, she was living in her house. And she gave me the cat because the house was a total mess of animal feces and stink.
Whose
in
house?
Her house.
Yes.
And she had trouble with maintaining all the dogs and the cats in her house. So
How many dogs did she have?
I'm guessing 5 to 10.
Is that how many dogs you had?
I'm a breeder, Your Honor, and I had 5 dogs, yes, at the time.
How many cats?
2. And I would like to say that my house was not as he mentioned.
When did you move into his house?
May 15th, 2004.
All right, so between February and May, the cat was in his house?
No, Your Honor, no. I'm sorry. The cat did not leave my home until April. I had not decided to move in with him until April. And at that point, he asked if he could take the cat ahead of time because his daughters would get a kick out of it.
Okay. When did you move out of the house?
November 26, 2004.
And when you moved out of the house, did you take the cat with you?
No, I couldn't, Your Honor. I had to leave in a hurry because of abusive behavior.
Did you come back on the 27th for your cat? Just answer my question. Did you come back on the 27th for your cat?
Not for the cat, Your Honor. For possessions that I needed, my clothing and that sort of thing that I needed that I could take with me.
Good, but you didn't take your cat.
No, I could not.
Why could not?
He had told me that I must leave the dog and the cat there.
Fine. Did you come back with the police and say, this is my cat?
Yes, I did on February 28th.
Too late. Finished. Cat's his. If somebody took my dog, I guarantee you I would be there. I would file a lawsuit, not for my property, but if somebody took my dog and wouldn't let me have my dog, it wouldn't take me from November 26th to February to say,
Your Honor,
my pet is gone.
I had been asking him for the cat over and over again.
Asking him for the cat, listen to me, asking him for the cat is not what one does when one is missing one's valued, precious pet.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The property that you claim he has that's yours are a soy sauce bottle, CDs, tape gun, painting supplies, and brush.
Yes, a growing list of things that I needed
I'm not
to get.
interested in your growing list. Get over it, Miss Abel.
And later today,
I read the answer about the flying pencil, but I want him to tell me himself how the pencil got on his chair. So we're going to start from turn around and look at me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail Abel says ex-boyfriend Tim Lemke owes for the return of money she invested in his home. Gail also claims Tim won't return her cat.
Go ahead.
I have email of all the times I requested amicably to get the cat back.
Starting before February?
Yes.
Show me
Absolutely
before February.
before February. All right, this starts on January 16th. We had had prior communication until that
just a
date.
second. So the first time from November is in January that you have proof of when you ask for the cat back. Is that what you're telling me?
That's
Let me
the
see.
proof, yes.
Let me see.
It starts at the top of the page.
Where's the cat now, Mr. Lemke?
The cat was loaned to a friend of mine to catch a mouse.
Where is the cat now?
Oh, my house. Excuse me.
That was my question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you right. Apologize. He was loaned out for a very short amount of time, and she demanded I get the cat back and I could keep the cat as long as I kept the cat at my house. So she came back and verified, and that's in an email that the cat was there, and she said, okay.
Where is that?
It's in an email.
You have it?
Yeah, right here. And when she... Shh. Excuse me.
Well, this in January seems to indicate that you wanted to come to his house to verify that the cat was back in his house.
Yes. And I asked again, may I may I please take my cat back? And he said no, he wouldn't even let me near it. He had the cat missing for a month, Your Honor. That night he gave me 3 different stories as to where the cat was. First it was with an old lady having surgery.
Where are your dogs now?
The one that I kept is with me. The other dogs I placed in other homes because...
And what about the cat that you had?
I had the cat for 6 years.
Where's the cat?
Oh, the second cat?
Yes.
Oh, the second cat?
Yes, the cat.
The cat we're talking about.
No, your other cat. You said you had 5 dogs and 2 cats.
Right.
Where's the other cat?
Right. The other cat went home with Mr. Lemke's nephew and stayed with his brother. I have that cat back now. I'm very thankful to say.
So you have the cat back?
I have the other cat back, yes. But not this one. But in the top of that email that you see, he said, I will give you the cat back if it's that big of a deal. And I said, yes, it is that big of a deal.
Well, evidently it wasn't such a big deal because you waited 4 months to get it back. Now, what property? Are you telling me that the property that you claim he has that's yours are a soy sauce bottle?
Oh, sorry, Your Honor.
CDs, just a second. A soy sauce bottle, that's what you say in the email. CDs, a tape gun, painting supplies, brush, hand pail, rollers. This is what you say in an email.
Yes, as I discovered things were missing, Your Honor.
I'm not interested in as you discovered. Is this the email that you sent to him on January 19th? Soy sauce bottle, CDs, tape gun, painting supplies, and brush.
Yes, a growing list of things that I needed
I'm not
to
interested in your growing list. Get over it, Miss Abel. Listen to me very carefully. It didn't work out. Put your list down. It didn't work out. You paid rent for $1,500 a month for those 6 months that you lived there. Very reasonable, considering you are 2 people. You made that agreement and the fact that it didn't work out, and you did not memorialize an agreement that was more specific with regard to the $1,500 that you were paying him is your problem. You cannot visit that on courts. It didn't work out. Put a period, move on. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
All right, thank you.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I was naive, I was stupid, I made decisions too quickly, and I trusted someone who should not have been trusted.
The thing that was left out was when she moved in, there wasn't 5 dogs. There ended up being 12.
Extremely controlling. I was told how to breathe, how to stand, how fast I had to get pretty in the morning, and not to wear gray sweatshirts ever.
I'm not controlling.
That's who he is, and I just say the next girl needs to watch out.
She's a wonderful gal. It's too bad she left.
I'm glad it's over, and I do trust Judge Judy to make the right decision.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Macias versus Ayala, step forward, please.
Medical coder Alina Macias is suing the mother of her son's schoolmate, business owner Sandra Ayala, for the cost of her son's medical bills and pain and suffering. Alina says Sandra's boy injured her son with a pencil.
Step over there. No, you have...
Yeah, no.
Okay, you too.
What's your first name?
Nathaniel.
And yours?
Jonathan.
Nathaniel, you were injured in school.
Right.
With a pencil.
Yes.
You sat down, according to the complaint. You sat down on your chair, and you were stuck in the rear end with a pencil which lodged in your buttocks and had to be surgically removed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it is your claim that this young man was responsible.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I assume that you didn't see how the pencil got there. Because if you had seen how the pencil got there, you wouldn't have sat on it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't see how it got there?
No, ma'am.
So Jonathan here is going to tell me, because I read the answer about the flying pencil, but I want him to tell me himself how the pencil got on his chair. So we're going to start from turn around and look at me.
12-year-old Nathaniel Mancha says his classmate, 12-year-old Jonathan Ayala, stuck him with a pencil. Jonathan claims it was an accident.
How old are you?
12.
How do you do in school?
Good.
How is your conduct in school?
Good, too.
Never have any complaints by the teachers?
A little bit only.
Speak up.
A little bit only.
And when the teachers complain about you a little bit only, what do they complain about?
Like sometimes talking and then like a little bit slacking off.
Now, you know Nathaniel, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long has he been in your class?
This year only.
Do you like him?
Uh-huh.
Did you play together?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the day that he was hurt with the pencil?
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how the pencil got on his chair.
Well, I was doing my work and like the pencil was like small, So I didn't want it anymore. So I wanted to throw it to the trash, and
It's just the pencil was small,
yes.
and you're sitting in your seat, and you wanted to throw the pencil in the trash.
Yes.
Where was the trash?
Next to Nate's chair.
And how far away from Nate were you sitting?
At least like 2.5 feet.
So very close.
But
So now you got this little pencil, and you wanted to throw it away, and the trash was right next to him.
yes, it was right next to his chair.
What were you going to use to complete your work?
Another pencil that I had on my desk, which was bigger.
So you had a little well on your desk where you could keep the pencils?
No, I always put my pencils next to my papers.
Do you have a book bag?
Yeah, in my backpack.
Where is your backpack?
I left it home that day.
What were you wearing to school?
My school emblem shirt and my jeans.
Your shirt have a pocket?
No.
Your jeans have a pocket?
Yeah, but they're tight.
You know you're pretty swift. You think that you're smarter than I am?
No.
You're not, Jonathan. Believe me, you're not. You know where I'm going with these questions? Where do you think I'm going with these questions?
Trying to see if I'm telling the truth or not.
Yeah, trying to see if you could put the pencil someplace else rather than throw. What you're going to tell me is you threw the pencil into the trash. Or
No,
you
I
tried to throw it into the trash.
Yeah, I was going to.
Right? And it landed straight up on Jonathan's chair. And he sat on it. Right?
I didn't land straight on the chair. It was going through the chair when he sat on it because he was...
It was in midair when he sat on it.
Yes, it was pointing up.
And he got hurt. Well, whose fault do you think that is?
Mine.
Right. Now we're getting somewhere. Why is it your fault?
Because I threw a pencil.
Because you threw the pencil. You had choices. Right? You chose throwing the pencil. Right?
Right.
So whether you threw the pencil and he sat on it or you placed it on his chair as sort of a joke, it's your fault. Right? See, I knew we'd get somewhere. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now you can sit down. I mean, Miss Ayala, quite frankly, you wrote the answer. You told me in the answer that this was nobody's fault. It was the pencil's fault. Oh, next to your mother. It's not the pencil's fault, it's his fault. He had choices. And at age 12, he has to understand that there are consequences to making the wrong choice. His choice was he could have held on to the pencil, he could have put it in his pocket, he could have placed it on the floor. He chose to throw it, according to him, which, way out, but you know, not impossible. Certainly not his fault that he sat down on his chair, right?
Right.
So now your son understands that it's his fault and his responsibility that he got hurt. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Perfect. Good. Now can I see his medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of treatment did you get?
They put me under.
Under anesthesia?
Yes. And I had to get the pencil surgically removed from my buttocks.
Did you have any stitches?
Yes.
How many stitches did you have?
1.
Were you uncomfortable for a while?
Yes.
What did Jonathan say after you sat on the pencil? Did he apologize?
No.
Has he ever apologized to you?
No.
Have you spoken to him since this happened?
Yes.
Are you back to being friends?
Yes.
Good. Did you apologize?
No, I never got a chance to.
Well, now's a chance.
Sorry, Nate, for throwing the pencil.
Certainly, Miss Ayala, you don't expect the plaintiff to bear any of the cost of treating her son. They had almost $600 in unreimbursed medical bills, and that you are responsible for. Because as between the two of you, he's innocent and he's not. Whether he did it as a joke or whether he did it because he was negligent or because he wasn't thinking. So you are responsible for those medical bills. Are these your only bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600, that's all.
Parties Judge, you may step out. Yana, this is number 39 on the calendar, the matter of Pugach versus Gunasegra. Really. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Pugach, what's your first name?
Sandra.
Mr. Gunasegra, your first name?
Surya.
How long had the two of you been dating?
We dated for about 2.5 years.
Did you live together?
No.
But it is your claim that while you were dating, you made a series of loans to him.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Gunasegra says there were no loans, just the give and take of a normal dating relationship, and he acknowledges that you laid out some money for him. He said that that's part of the dating relationship. Is that right, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When did you start dating?
We started dating in October of 2002.
And when was the first loan that you made to him?
In July of 2004.
What was it for?
It was for a trip. We went on a couple of trips after he got back from Europe after he graduated from college. And the first trip we made was with his parents to Canada. And when we would go out, I would pay. And he would always say, oh, when we get back and I get a job, I'll pay you back. And then we went to my hometown in Georgia, and I paid for the hotel, and we went out to dinner, and he said that he would pay for half of it when we got back, and he got a job.
Well, did he ever get a job?
No.
Huh?
No, Your Honor.
He never got a job?
Not until recently.
What's next?
In August, I went to Barcelona to study abroad for the semester, and I thought he was going to stay home and get a job so he could finally get the money to pay me back. And I would question him on if he's been applying to jobs. He would say he would go into interviews, so I figured he was on a line to get a job eventually, hopefully sooner than later.
Go ahead, Sandra. I'm listening for the rest of the loans.
Okay, so then he moved to Europe, and he eventually came to Barcelona, and I paid for his rent while he lived there, and I paid for his food, and anywhere we would go out, I would pay. And every time I would give him money, he would say, don't worry, you know, when we get back, I'll get a job. I promise I'll pay you back.
Keep going.
Then we finally came back to the States, and he was going to interviews quite often. He would say he got a job offer, but then wouldn't take it.
Keep going with the loans, my dear.
So in March of 2005, we took a trip to Las Vegas, and I paid for everything while we were there. And then I really just got tired of him not paying me back. We got back home.
You say in your complaint that he wanted $500 to gamble with.
Yes.
And you gave it to him.
I did.
Who are these two gentlemen over here?
This is my roommate, Danny McGee, and he was in Vegas with us. And then this is my friend, Devin, and he is a mutual friend of ours. He used to hang out with us. He would see me giving Surya money all the time and him promising to pay me back.
Well, I want to hear about the promise to pay you back. Raise your hand, please.
Sorry, my name's Danny. Danny McGee. I'm roommates with Sandy, and I went on a trip to Vegas with both of them. And there's been times in the past where she would give him money to gamble with the agreement that if he lost, she would take the loss, and if he won, that they'd split the winnings. And this trip to Vegas, she was hesitant to go because he didn't have any money. And we got out there, and I saw her $200 or $300 that he borrowed from her. And she said specifically at the time, I'm going to give you this money, and if you lose, you owe it to me. And he agreed and actually lost all the money. And since then, I know he's had 2 jobs and has made no effort to pay her back whatsoever.
You have anything to add to this case?
Yeah, I do, actually. Should I stand up?
Yes, you should.
Okay. Well,
Your name?
my name is Devin Stinson, and I've called him before in the past, and I've said, hey, let's go get some food or something. And he'd say, well, you got to call Sandy because I don't have any money. And then I'd call Sandy, and we'd all go out, and then what would wind up happening is he would order, and then after everything was over, he would say, well, I don't have any money, and he'd just expect it to be paid for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ball's in your court.
Well, first off, let me say that the only reason I went to Europe was because I had a job. I had an internship with a software company, and I had that for a while, and it didn't end up working out. My plane ticket wasn't for 6 weeks later, so Sandy and I both agreed that it would be good to spend that 6 weeks together because I was actually living in Switzerland at the time. And so I came down to Barcelona, and I did have some income through a rental property of mine. So I was making some type of money.
Surya, how old are you?
23.
Am I correct? According to your answer, you're in law school now?
No, not till August.
Where?
Thomas Jefferson or the University of Denver. I haven't chosen one.
What college did you graduate from?
University of Colorado.
And you?
I'm still in school at the University of Colorado.
Where do you get all this money from, Sandra?
I have 2 jobs that I work.
What 2 jobs do you work?
I am the assistant manager at a bowling alley at the school, and I work for the housing department at the university.
Who's paying your tuition?
My parents are.
Did they like him?
Sometimes, most of the time.
Well, I'm sure he can be charming.
You sure can.
When the first time you went out for dinner with him, and he said, "I'm sorry, I left my wallet in my other car. I left my wallet in Switzerland." That should have been a clue. It sounds to me, based upon what this young man has testified to, that this was sort of a regular occurrence. You would go out for a meal, he would eat, and you would pay. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Should have known better, Sandra. Who is this, by the way?
This is Ryan Watson. He's my roommate.
Does he have anything to contribute to this case?
Yeah. I'll let him explain.
I witnessed on many occasions Surya doing favors for Sandy, tutoring her and cleaning and making her dinner and things like that. And on some of those occasions, she would ask Surya to help her do those things, and Surya would say, "No, not right now, I'm busy." But then she would say, "Surya, you owe me so much money," using that against him, and he would end up doing that. So in both our opinions...
So you mean he was bartering domestic chores
right.
for the money he owed her?
Right.
And educational, Your Honor.
Syria, do you think that Sandra tutored you in some things?
As far as school?
Anything!
It's quite possible.
She didn't charge you for it, did she?
Emotionally, she charged me.
How did she... Shh, come on, folks. Come on, behave. Let's behave. How did she charge you emotionally?
I had to put up with so much ridiculous nonsense.
Surya, that you don't have to put up with it. I don't want to hear it. You weren't tethered to a radiator, were you?
In a metaphorical sense.
No metaphorical
I was.
sense. No metaphorical
Literally,
sense.
no.
You were in Switzerland. She was in Barcelona. Nobody got a magnet and attached it to you in Switzerland. You came down there by your...
own recognizance.
You're not in law school yet. Let's stick to the English you understand, sir.
Okay.
You think you took advantage of her?
I don't.
You just think that she understood what she was getting herself into. She had the money at the time. You did not.
Right.
And she wanted to travel to Vegas. You said, "I'll go with you, but I have no money."
Yeah, she understood
and she said,
that I had no
"I got the money. You pay me back when you get a job."
No, the arrangement was she was going to cover all the expenses.
Why?
Why? Because they needed a third person to go. Danny and her weren't just going to go by themselves.
Why?
Because they needed motivation. And I was that motivation.
Sandra,
Yes,
you schlepped around with him for 2 years.
Yes,
You
Your Honor.
let him take advantage of you for 2 years. So then what you do is you say, "Thank God I figured out that this was not Mr. Right. Before I planned a wedding with him, I had a child with him." You can sit down now, roommate. I don't think you had a valid contract with him. I think you had the hopes and the dreams of a young lady who was in love. And I'm sure that there was a time when he felt mutually. But you're a giver, and he's a taker. Somehow in his own mind, he is entitled to take. Where are your parents?
In Santa Monica?
Did they indulge you?
Not really.
Sounds to me as if you've been indulged. Switzerland, Barcelona, working, not working, looking for just the right gig. Your girlfriend takes care of you. There's a sense, Surya, of entitlement. Shh, do not answer. Now it's my turn. Sandra may find you irresistible, I guarantee you, sir. I do not. So, Sandra, I wish in my heart I could say to you, you had a valid contract, which is the only thing that I'm here to address. You did not have a contract recognized in the law for him to pay you back. But I'm telling you, I think that you're lucky because you're a lovely looking, intelligent, hard-working young lady who should not hitch her star to somebody who has a sense of entitlement. and who will just use you in one way or another for your whole life. Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Goodbye. Good luck.
Parties are excused.
Hurry
You may
up.
step out.
Grow up.
She made her decision. That's fine. I hope Sandy has a great life, and I wish her well.
We were in a relationship, and when you're in a relationship, you do things together. You cook dinner and you clean.
They're about sharing and trust.
You help the other person out when they need help, and that's all part of a relationship.
And we loved each other.
I've learned to not just give out my money to people because I think I'm in love.
She gave up believing in me.
Obviously, it didn't work out for me this time, so I'll just keep my money in my pockets.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Grimm versus Bynum. Step forward, please.
Student Ingrid Grimm is suing the great-grandmother of her daughter's friend, Amy Bynum, for damage to their pocket bike. Ingrid says Amy's great-granddaughter, 9-year-old Michaela, wrecked it during a birthday party.
Miss Grimm, your daughter was having a birthday party. What birthday was she celebrating?
Actually, it was two of my daughters, my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old.
How many children did you have at the party?
There was approximately 20 to 25 children.
And Miss Bynum's granddaughter was one of those children, and you are her guardian, is that right?
Yes.
It is your claim that Miss Bynum's granddaughter rode a pocket bike. And it's a motorized bike, is that right?
Yes, gas.
And she damaged the bike. You want her grandmother to pay for it?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, it was understood that the party...
Don't tell me what was understood. Just tell me what happened.
During the course of the party, we had allowed the children to ride. We have approximately 8 different bikes. And they were given certain rules that they had to follow in order to be able to ride the bikes. And Michaela did not follow those rules and therefore damaged the bike.
What rule didn't she follow?
Well, they were only supposed to go a certain distance, still within visual range of our house, which is approximately 8 to 9 houses, which is 1 block's length. Turn around and come back. And then she was
And
supposed
who was
to take
watching
turns.
them at that time?
I was outside in the garage, and then my boyfriend, Rodney.
Well, who was watching Michaela? That's Michaela over there?
Yes.
Who was watching Michaela?
Everybody was, because the children...
No, not everybody. Were you watching her?
No, not at the time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Then I'm going to end this torture.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ingrid Grimm says 9-year-old Michaela Nash wrecked her twin daughter's pocket bike while riding it at their birthday party. Michaela's great-grandmother, Amy Bynum, says Ingrid allowed Michaela to ride the bike without her consent.
Michaela, I want you to stand up next to your grandma, okay? How did you know that Michaela had damaged the bike? Did somebody come and say Michaela fell off the bike?
Yes. It was about 5 children that had come and told us that.
Who did they come and tell?
They told both me and Rodney.
So that what you're telling me, Miss Grimm, is that neither you nor Rodney were watching Michaela. Is that correct?
Yes, we were.
You weren't. Because you just said to me, 5 children came and told me that Michaela had had an accident on the bike. And I said, who did they come and tell? And you said they came and told me and my boyfriend, which suggests to me that neither you nor your boyfriend was supervising the child when she was on the bike. Right?
Okay, you can say that, yes.
You see, you don't have to say anything yet. You're going to tell me what happened to the bike, Michaela, very fast. Tell me what happened to the bike.
I ran into the curb and then the bike and the tire wouldn't move.
Were you driving someplace where you weren't supposed to be driving?
No.
You were driving up the block?
Mm-hmm.
Had other children driven to the same location?
They drove a little farther.
Really? And who was watching you when you were driving?
Rodney.
Rodney. Where was he?
He was at the house.
Was he there when the other children were riding further than you rode?
Yes.
Were you hurt?
No.
Miss Grimm, I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Then I'm going to end this torture. Let us say, Michaela, who was driving a motorized bike in the street. The law permits you to do that?
Yes.
How fast do they go?
Anywhere from 15 to 20 miles, I think.
15 to 20 miles an hour?
Yes.
How old are you, Michaela?
9.
Miss Grimm, let us assume that, heaven forbid, Michaela had an accident on this bike and was injured. Do you think you would be liable for her injuries?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because she was at my party that I was supervising.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So why in the world would you think that her grandmother is responsible for the damage to the bike?
Because she did not follow the rules, and she went further than where she was supposed to.
That was your responsibility to make sure that she didn't, not her grandmother's. When you invite children to your home to a birthday party, you become an insurer of their well-being. It is your responsibility to supervise them all the time that they're there. And if you elect to allow them to ride on a vehicle that can go 15 to 20 miles an hour, if there's an accident, you are 100% responsible. Did you tell her grandmother you were going to be allowing her to drive that bike?
All the parents were aware.
Were you made aware of that fact?
No, I was not.
I asked you whether you made Miss Bynum aware that you were going to allow her granddaughter to ride this bike.
All the parents were aware.
No, you can't answer the question, Miss Grimm, by saying to me all the parents were aware. You can't tell me what they were aware of when I ask you a simple question, which is, did you tell Miss Bynum that her granddaughter was going to be using a motorized vehicle?
I told all the parents of
When
the
did
children.
you tell Miss Bynum?
Well, when she dropped the children off.
What did you tell Miss Bynum?
I let them know that...
No. What did you tell Miss Bynum? What did you tell Miss Bynum when she dropped off Michaela?
Well, we introduced ourselves, and I thanked her for allowing her granddaughter to come to the birthday party. I let them know that what was...
Not you let them know. I want you to tell me what you said to Miss Bynum.
I don't recall.
Miss Bynum, is anything said to you about your granddaughter riding a motorized bike?
No. I would not have left her at the party if it was.
In any way, Miss Grimm, you are an insurer of the minor children left in your care and custody when you invite children to a birthday party. If they damage something in your home, it's your fault. If they hurt themselves when they damage something in your home, it's your fault. So you can't invite more children to a party than you're prepared to supervise properly, and I certainly would exercise better judgment than allowing a 9-year-old child to get on a motorized bike that's capable of going 20 miles an hour. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 55 on the calendar in the matter of Dennis versus E.B. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Dennis, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Are you an only child?
I have 2 sisters.
Is this your dad?
Yep.
This is your complaint. Mr. E.B.
Yep.
is the prize. He is also the defendant. This is his wife?
Yes.
He separates from his wife in August. You take up with him almost immediately.
Yes.
Did you know he was separated at the time?
Yes.
So you knew he was married?
Yes.
How much after he left his wife did he hook up with you?
In October.
No, you met him before October. You moved in according to your complaint in October.
He lived next door to my parents.
With his wife or after he separated?
Both.
So as soon as the wife moved out, you started dating?
Yeah.
Big mistake. Did your father tell you it was a big mistake?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
How much of a big mistake did you tell her it was?
I told her it was a big one. I told her it wouldn't have been worth it.
So she moves in with him in October. Now, at that time, did you rented your own apartment?
I had my own place still.
And when did you become pregnant?
November.
Birth control sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
What did you say to her when you found out not only was she living with him, but she was pregnant?
They always tell me when I'm on the road, so I'll be calmed down when I get home.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Dennis?
Truck driver.
Well, then it seems that Mr. E.B. decides to go back to his wife. Your lawsuit for 2 things. For a couple of months' rent that is still owed after he moved out, and for the value of car that you purchased for him, Mr. Dennis. You purchased an old car, $500?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. E.B. says that the car was a gift and that you paid the bills while you were living there, but after you moved out, you changed the locks and you're not responsible for anything else.
Yep.
Mr. Dennis, I want you to tell me about the car.
She worked first shift. He worked second shift. She was getting off at...
Where?
She worked at a daycare, and he worked at a place called Cook's Foods. She was getting home about 4:30. He had to be to work by 4:45, which he was always being late. So I told him, I didn't tell him nothing really. I went out, I went to a car lot and asked them if they had a car for about $500. So on the way over to pick up the car, I asked him if he could get insurance on the car. And he said no. So I paid the $500, put the car in his name in case he had an accident. I didn't want to be liable for it. And then
so far, smart.
And then when they got their income tax money, I was supposed to get my $500 back. And that never happened.
What do you mean when they? You mean the two of them?
Well, he filed, but he put her kids on his income tax so he could get more money.
How many other children do you have?
I have 2.
You have enough children.
That's what I told her. I told her she had enough at one.
Mr. Dennis, we could have been twins. Who takes care of these 3 children?
I do. Well, I'm still carrying one. I take care of the other 2.
Where are their fathers?
My daughter's dad is deceased, and my son's dad lives across town.
And you're still living in this house?
Yes.
Emily, you have to find another hobby. Making children is not a hobby.
I know.
Let's get to the car part.
I offered to pay him back $500 a couple weeks later at Red Lobster on the 12th of April. And he declined my money. I had the money for him. He said no.
What did he say?
He said, no, I don't want your money. I want the car. I have the title right here. And these are the things they forged.
You have the car, right?
Yep.
So try yes. It sounds
Yes.
nicer. You know, how many children do you have?
I have 1.
You have 1 now.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Did he offer you $500?
No, he said he was willing to pay me $500 for it, but he didn't have it then.
Oh, but you said you had it.
I did have it.
Well, that's what he wants. He wants the $500. So you have no problem with that?
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Now let's talk about the rent. Ms. Dennis, when did Mr. Eby move out?
April 9th. He walked out.
Why?
He told me he's taken his daughter to his aunt's house and never returned.
Did you change the locks?
No.
What month's rent are you claiming that he owes you?
Well, I paid April's myself, and I've paid May's.
But he wasn't there in May.
Well, yeah.
Why didn't he pay any of April's rent?
Because I got my paycheck from work, and I paid it because he was in between jobs, and he didn't have a paycheck at the time to pay it.
Did you move out on April? Why are you laughing?
Because I never technically moved out of there. I came home. Locks were changed.
When?
On the 14th of April.
Okay, so how much was your half of the rent?
I paid all the rent.
In April?
Yes. All she gets for a check is from welfare.
Who paid April's rent? Do you have a rent receipt for April's rent?
Nope. She would have it. Because I don't have nothing because she wouldn't allow me back in the house.
I see the receipt. Did you give her cash to pay the rent?
Yep.
Let's try that again.
Yes.
Mr. Eby, these 2 women may find you irresistible. I guarantee you I do not.
Okay.
The only month that I'm interested in is April. The only month that you show me on a receipt for rent for April, every other receipt is nice and clear. The month, the date is nice and clear. The only date that there's something written over is April. I mean, didn't you think that I'd notice that?
I picked them up.
What happened here?
I don't know. I didn't look
Well,
yet.
I don't know either. You get money from social services?
No.
Other than your job, how do you support yourself?
My son's dad pays child support.
You get Social Security for your son, for your child whose father is dead?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because he didn't work.
Another winner. You help her?
More than we should, but yeah.
What is she going to do after her lease is up?
She's moving into our house.
Who else lives in your house, Mr. Dennis?
All of them. That's why I drive a truck.
You have 3 children? 3
Yes.
children? She the only one with children?
No,
How many of the others have children?
all of them.
Mr. Dennis, you missed the class on teaching your children birth control.
No, they missed the class on listening.
They missed the class on listening. All right, now, Mr. Eby, you have a counterclaim, if my memory
I'd like
is
to go back
correct.
for a second.
What?
Things they had forged.
You mean forged with regard to the car?
Yeah.
Listen to me very carefully. Put that down, sir. Put the papers down. Other than the fact that you told me that you agreed to pay him back, and you said to him, here's $500. I'm going to pay you back for the car, I would have ruled in your favor because there was no loan agreement. But you agreed to pay him back. So you're going to pay him back, and I don't care if they forged the Declaration of Independence. You're going to pay him back for the car.
I offered him, he said no.
Now he says yes. Now you're going to pay him back for the car, not for the rent. She lived there. She's going to take care of the rent, and she has taken care of the rent. Now, let's get to your counterclaim.
My counterclaim is for my living room set that she still has, my entertainment stand, TV, VCR, movies, Xbox, etc., washer and dryer.
Now, did he purchase all of those things?
No, he didn't.
Who purchased them?
I did.
All of them?
Yes.
Let me see the receipts.
I don't have receipts. I didn't think I was going to get into a situation like
Well,
this.
just a second. When you moved into the house, he was already living there. So I want you to be very careful with what you tell me. Your father is a backup, and your father and I are almost soulmates here. Do you understand, Miss Dennis? You moved into his house, and of course, according to you, his wife left. He was still living there, and a couple of weeks later, you move in.
Yes.
With your 2 children. Did he have furniture in his place when you moved in?
He gave it all to his wife.
Everything?
Yes, I even had to provide a bed for his daughter.
Mr. Dennis, did Aaron over here have any furniture?
Yes, he did. He did, but he
Stop doing that.
He threw tantrums once in a while, and he'd start throwing his furniture out of the house, and then by the garbage, and then they'd pick it up and haul it off. He did that a lot.
What did your daughter move in with?
Well, we carried a big screen TV in there, sofa love seat, her bedroom set, her daughter's bedroom set, and her son's bedroom set. That's what we
What
moved.
about a washer dryer?
It was already in there.
Is that yours? You want it back? Done. What else do you say that's there, sir?
TV, VCR, movies, Xbox, couch.
Well, just a second. How many TVs were in the house?
1.
That's hers.
Nope, hers got repoed.
First of all, we have 4 TVs in our home.
Oh, you do? Well, one of them must belong to him.
We can
And he can have it. It is downstairs.
Oh, fine.
That's not the TV.
Listen to me. You're lucky I'm listening to this at all. Because you two have to find another hobby. You have enough children for a while. Caused enough damage.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I told her that I didn't understand why she would do something like she had done. He had done everything to help her. It really hurt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Dennis and her father, Rodney Dennis, are suing the father of Emily's unborn child, Aaron Eby, for rent, bills, and the value of a car. Aaron is countersuing for the return of his furniture.
Washer, dryer, and TV. He's going to pick it up 5 days from today.
Okay.
Do you speak to him?
No.
Do you?
No, but I can. I mean, it won't bother me.
Fine. Then why don't you?
He knows my number.
Why don't you make arrangements to go and get it?
All right.
So, I read your answer, Mr. Eby, and according to you, you're not even sure that this baby that Miss Dennis is having is yours. I have a feeling it is. But I'm sure you're going to do a paternity test.
Yes.
Which is a very good idea. And that means that the two of you are going to be joined in some way for the next couple of decades. So I suggest you start to act responsibly and reasonably towards each other. And he has a very calming effect. At least he did on me. He had a very calming effect. So I suggest you keep him as a friend. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do the right thing with him. He's tried to do the right thing with you. Got it?
Yes.
Good. You took him back?
Yeah, I did.
No, I didn't. Just, yeah, I did is fine.
Yes, I
Good.
did.
Shh, say nothing. Sit down. You taking him back is your problem, not mine. Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500 on the counterclaim. You'll have the property as I outlined it in 5 days, and Mr. Dennis will take care of seeing to it that it's picked up. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They went out to my car, stole the bill of sale, forged my name on it,
He moved in 2 weeks after I left.
He was no good.
trying to get me a ticket because the cops were going to write me a ticket for possession of a stolen vehicle.
He left me for his drug addict wife.
All the furniture was ours.
I'm carrying his child.
Yeah, I'd like to have him be part of it, but, you know, if he ain't, I can pick up the pieces from there.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Herzog versus Emery. Step forward, please.
Kimberly Herzog is suing her former nanny, 24-year-old Sarah Emery, for a loan to pay her bills, lost wages, and daycare costs. Sarah says Kimberly is possessive and controlling.
Ms. Herzog, the defendant was working for you as a nanny, and according to your complaint, you loaned her $1,000 because she was having some back surgery. The arrangement was that she was supposed to pay you back. You were going to deduct a certain amount of money when she returned to work from her weekly salary. So far, am I correct?
Yes.
And she had the surgery, and then, according to you, she left your employment. You want your money back.
Correct.
And Miss Emery said that you fired her without good cause, and that's why she couldn't pay you back. When did she come to work for you?
She started working for me January of 2004.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
When was the surgery?
January
of 2005. So for the year that she worked for you, from January 2004 till January of 2005, was her work satisfactory?
Yes, until the very end, which actually led to the dismissal. I had spoken to her on multiple occasions.
About what?
About making my child sit on a couch for 3 hours while my other child was sleeping.
That's not true.
When did she borrow the money from you?
She borrowed the money on January 14th.
So she borrowed the money after you had had conversations with her about her performance, her
Yes.
work performance. Was she scheduled to be out of work for any period of time?
Yes, she took 2 weeks off.
And there is no issue as to whether Ms. Herzog loaned you the money?
Correct.
Well, now I'll hear your defense.
Okay. In January, I gave my 2 weeks after I came back to work on Monday. Tuesday night, I had called her and I told her I was going to stay with my sister, and she got angry at me and told me that I had to stay at her house.
Well, was it your usual routine to stay at her, to sleep at her house? Or
Yes, I was a live-in nanny, so I stayed at her house.
So why were you going to stay at your sister's house?
It was, she expected me to hang out with her and spend time with her at night when I was off duty. And I didn't think that I should have to stay at her house when I was paying her rent or spend time with her family if I didn't want to.
So what did you do?
We got in a big argument, and I told her that if I wanted to stay with my sister, that I could. And she got angry at me and then started accusing me of things with the boys, of not caring for them the way I should, and that I loved my nephew more, and all this stuff that wasn't true. And we ended up getting a fight, and on Wednesday I couldn't handle anymore, and so when she was at work, I moved out.
When you moved out on Wednesday, how did you intend to repay the $1,000?
I was going to make payments from. I gave her 2 weeks notice, and I was going to be able to get a job within that 2 weeks and pay her back. But 2 days later, she fired me. I tried to get unemployment, and she's fighting me on that. She's trying to do anything she can to ruin my life.
How are you supporting yourself?
Right now, I finally started to get unemployment from the state.
Go ahead. Let me hear what happened between Wednesday and Friday.
On Wednesday, I come home, and everything was moved out of the house.
And she quit?
And she quit. And she had my kids the whole day that she had done this.
Fine. She quit.
Yes,
Did she work for you on Thursday and Friday?
Yes. I didn't have anything else I could do at that point.
Okay. What did you say to her on Thursday and Friday?
I told her that I didn't understand why she would do something like she had done, move out of our home like that, quit. We had done everything to help her. It really hurt. It hurt to help someone so much and not.
Did you fire her on Friday?
I did not fire her. I rendered her services at that point.
What
I couldn't
happened?
trust her in my home.
So you fired her? You let her go? Tell me what you did.
I just came home and I gave her her money that she had worked and let her know that at that point on I did not want her watching my children.
Well, I would probably do the same thing. If somebody moved out of my house after almost a year working for me without notifying me, moved stuff out during the course of the day when you're supposed to be watching her children, I would probably terminate your services too. In any event, you should have let her quit. She wouldn't have collected unemployment.
I'm fighting it. She didn't appear to be a peer hearing last week, so.
The truth of the matter is, she quit on Wednesday, and she owes you the money. You took $60 out of
Yes, I did.
the first paycheck, the
Yes, I
last
did.
paycheck you gave her, so she owes you $940. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $940. That's all.
Party love Steve, and they step out. Yeah, this is case number 104 on the calendar in the matter of Burden versus Duncan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Burden, you were supposed to be married in Las Vegas. And according to your complaint, the defendant was a guest of a member of your wedding party. You were all supposed to be traveling from one place to another by plane. Where were you coming from?
We came from Flint, Michigan.
And you were going to Las Vegas?
Las Vegas.
Your complaint alleges that Miss Duncan, while you were waiting for the plane in Michigan, I assume.
In Atlanta.
That was a layover? Got drunk. And because she was drunk and unruly, your entire wedding party was thrown off the plane. You missed your wedding. All your deposits were lost. You're still not married, all because of her bad behavior.
That's true.
That's what you allege. Okay, so you hadn't met her before?
No.
Who was she the guest of?
My cousin Tiara.
Is she here today?
Yes, she is.
That's Tiara. Okay, so tell me the story. I'm listening.
We got to Atlanta, and we were going to get on the next plane to get to Las Vegas. AirTran had overbooked each flight 15 to 20 people, so we had to wait for the next flight. That we're on standby, so we're on a list.
Why were you on standby?
That's the buddy passes, they're standby tickets.
How many buddy passes did you have?
I had, for me and my fiance, his uncle and aunt, and my cousin and her two friends.
Where did you get them from?
Ibrahim, a friend of the family.
Ibrahim.
He's
you.
here as a witness, too.
What's your last name, sir?
Abdul Rahim.
Mr. Rahim. Where did you get these buddy passes from?
I work for the airline. We get 6 buddy passes a year. Once Tiara said that she had a cousin going to get married, I tried to help him out. So I got them from 2 other friends that work for AirTran.
So you get 6 per year. How much do you pay for them?
They're $50.
So it's $350.
Yes.
Okay. Sit down. Okay. Go ahead.
So my fiance's uncle and aunt got on the plane. We had to wait for the 7:45 flight. My cousin Tiara and her friends decided to go drinking in the airport. Me and my fiance slept for a while, and then we woke up about 3. We were looking for them, and they were downstairs at a bar. They had already drank a bar tab of $79, and Heather and her friend left with this guy they met at the bar. They got back about 7, and we just made it up there in time to get on the 7:45 plane. The flight attendant said there was 5 seats left, and there was just 5 of us, but she miscounted. There was only 4 seats.
Okay, so there was one person who had to get off.
Yeah, but Miss Duncan was hollering and cursing at her, so she made everybody get off the plane. So we all get off the plane, and Heather's still at the bottom of the ramp arguing with this woman. The lady's closing the door. She's trying to open the door, and we're all walking up the ramp, and she's still down there arguing. So my fiance goes down there and tells her, come on, we have to go because the ramp's closed, and you can feel it pulling back. She takes off walking. We meet back up with her at the baggage claim, and she started cursing at the lady in the baggage claim, telling her that she's never been treated like that before, and she flies here and there. But we're on standby. You can't act a fool when you're on standby because you represent the person that gets you the ticket. So after I filled out my claim, I go outside to step outside for a cigarette. She comes running past me saying, stall the police, they're after me, and takes off. I'm sitting there like, what's going on? So I go back in. They got U.S. Homeland Security there, Atlanta police there, the airport police. They're looking for her. She calls my cousin on the phone telling her she's laying in the back of somebody's truck. And that's where it all went from there. So we had to call the reservations in the morning to see if we can get put on the next flight in the morning to go to Vegas. They canceled our tickets because of her actions. We had to purchase new tickets to go home. It was a mess.
It was a mess.
Yeah, a disaster.
Okay. You remember what happened that day?
I do.
You remember everything that happened that day, Miss Duncan?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you drunk?
We had all been to the bar. We had all
I
been
didn't ask
drinking.
about anybody else. I only asked about you. Were you drunk?
I was not over my limit, no, ma'am.
You think you were able to drive a car?
No, I would not have drove a car, no, ma'am.
Well, then you were drunk. Then you were legally drunk if you would not have driven a car. Did you create a scene on the plane?
I did not.
Tell me what happened on the plane.
Well, we were on standby all day, like she said.
That's right. You were on standby all day, and now you're on, and they tell us one person
Didn't get
that they
on
have
the
to get
first
off.
flight. The second flight, 11:30 flight.
Get to the 7:45 flight.
Well, it's very pertinent to the situation because her fiance was cleared, got off, which made 5 people that now needed to board the last flight.
So there was an extra seat on the 11:30 flight.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But you wanted to travel with your fiance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why didn't somebody else get on that flight?
By then, the ramp, they had unlocked the doors, and once you came out of the door, you could not go back in there after they shut and locked them.
Should have let him go. Then you wouldn't have had trouble, right?
But he came back looking for me.
I got it, Miss Burden. All I'm saying is if he had gone to Vegas, you all would have been in Vegas by that night, right? You know, Miss Drunk Out of Her Mind and all the other people who were drinking would have gotten there. Go ahead.
So the last flight out, 7:45 flight, 4 seats available. She says 4 of us can stay on the flight. 1 person's going to have to stay. Because of all the confusion, we all were turned off that flight. It came down to the last minute. At the door, she's still saying, we have to go. 4 of you can stay on the plane. 1 of you has to go. And all the confusion, we all were escorted off that plane.
Well, the confusion, Miss Burden suggests, is because of your bad behavior.
That is not true.
Were you on the plane?
Yes, ma'am.
Your last name is?
Island.
Tell me about her behavior.
When we got on the plane, we knew that there was 5 seats where there was supposed to be 5 seats available. The lady tells us that there's only 4 seats available. So when I find out there's 4 seats, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get off, even though I know these are my cousins, the whole reason we're going, but there's 4 people that can go, and I knew that I would be able to get there in the morning. So I was like, I can just get off the plane. Heather grabs me and says, no, don't get off the plane. She's still trying to converse with the lady, and there's only 4 seats available. There was no way that there was going to be another seat, and there was another lady. She was trying to get her bags into the overhead compartment, and we're all trying to help her get the bags. Heather tells me to go sit in the lady's seat, and I'm like, why would I sit in her seat? She already has a seat, you know what I'm saying? So that's really what happened on the plane.
Good. You can sit down. You can stand up, sir. Why have you not yet married?
Money-wise, we saved for a whole year to go to Vegas to get married.
Well, what kind of deposits did you have there?
I have receipts for everything that I put a deposit on and paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And I have police reports and statements from the Atlanta Police Department and Air
I'd like to see
Airways.
the police report, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think that when you cause somebody that kind of aggravation, there has to be some punitive action.
I honestly don't feel so. The fact
Well,
of
I don't give a rat's behind what you think.
And later today,
I did not have enough money to pay the
Why
whole
did you
rent.
get a job?
I did get a job.
Well, if you had a job and you're getting welfare and you're getting some child support, what did you have to ask for charity for?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alicia Burden claims her cousin's friend, Heather Duncan, caused her and her wedding party to be kicked off an airplane. Alicia says she had to cancel her wedding.
Well, this is a letter from AirTran Airways, directed to this gentleman who was employed by them, and it says, this is to notify you that your non-revenue and reduced rate travel privileges have been suspended for 180 days. This action is being taken as a result of an investigation into an incident concerning an individual traveling on your buddy pass under itinerary whatever. The individual in question is Miss Heather Duncan, that would be you, exhibited unprofessional and abusive conduct both towards our passengers and your fellow crew members. And you are responsible for all actions for your guest passenger, and you are responsible for notifying your past traveler of all policy and procedures. Well, you don't have to be notified to how to behave like a human being. They found that your conduct caused him to lose his privileges for 180 days. Can't hold your booze. And then the woman down at the luggage department says that you threw a pen and paper at her. You behaved very badly, Miss Duncan.
We had been at the airport for 13 hours. We were all very frustrated.
Nobody else caused the same kind of scene that you did.
That's right. We were all very frustrated. Everybody was crying. Everybody was cussing. Our luggage was gone. I was the one that had to step up, talk to the lady about the luggage.
No,
and
no,
I did.
You didn't talk to anybody.
I did.
You
I
were
lost
screaming
my temper.
profanity, and you lost your temper, and you threw a pen at her, and you threw paper at her. But I'm not so sure, Miss Burden, that all of you were thrown off because of her conduct.
Our tickets were canceled because of her.
You mean your buddy pass tickets?
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to go to Vegas, you would have had to buy a ticket, purchase a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you do that?
We wouldn't have no money to get home.
What kind of work do you do?
I pack parts.
And you?
I'm a homemaker.
You are home together?
Yeah, we live together.
How long have you lived together?
About
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. You have children, I assume?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Well, so there's no real big rush about getting married. This is not a, this is a marriage that's been coming on for 8 years.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with getting married in Michigan?
That's what we're going to do now.
Good. That's what you should do now.
Yeah.
You caused them a lot of aggravation, Miss Duncan. And I think that when you cause somebody that kind of aggravation, because you couldn't control your actions, there has to be some punitive action that's available.
I honestly don't feel so. The fact of
Well,
the
I
matter-
don't give a rat's behind what you think. This is not a touchy-feely situation, madam. They planned this day, planned to be in Las Vegas, planned to have a wedding, and because of your bad behavior, they weren't able to do that. And I think that you are responsible for some of the pain and suffering, although I usually don't even like to entertain those lawsuits because of your bad behavior. Not only that, but you caused him aggravation as well. You were the only stranger to this wedding party, and you didn't behave yourself. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
हेलो गाइस, कैसे हैं आप सब? ठीक हैं? आज है हमारे पास कपकेक और इसमें हम कलर करेंगे। वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो लाइक, सब्सक्राइब एंड शेयर कीजिएगा। चलें शुरू करते हैं।
ये के बाहर रहा है तुम
मुझे जब करो
बस आपको रोकना है यहाँ पे।